Hello neighbor, excuse the loud noise of the AC, but it is hot this part of the country. I will turn off the AC as soon as we have something useful to say. In the meantime, the dwarf is sitting at an angle, as you can tell, because the tree is usually straight up. I use the dwarf's own tripod. I like the way for us at about 43 degrees latitude, the tripod is the perfect equatorial mount. I don't need anything else. Have not looked at the Envision, so right now no thought. I was not aware of that new launch. Unistellar has gone the way of putting eyepieces that are digital sensors to render a near real life experience. Every time I come close to buying a Unistellar device, I find myself turned off by one feature or the other. The Equinox, for example, does not have remote focus or autofocus. It only has manual focus, which did not appeal to me. Yeah, right now I'm waiting for Dwarf 3. It's gonna keep me busy all summer if they come through and ship it in July, if I get mine in July as promised. Yeah, no shortage of things to do this summer. I expect to be very, very busy. Especially that nighttime and darkness is only 4 hours these days, or 5 hours, whatever. Very, very short. So the plan for tonight is to first test, will Dwarf track the moon in equatorial mode? And then once it gets dark enough, I'd like to do a few, well, let's see if it'll calibrate again in equatorial mode. That has always been a tricky proposition. And then I'd like to do a cluster. If M13 or M92 are up in the sky, I will go for one or the other. And then I'd like to do one or two of the larger galaxies and nebula. Andromeda will not be rising until much, much later, way beyond my bedtime for tonight. This tree is just about 30 years old. It is as high as the house. Moon, it's taking its jolly time. It is the moon. Okay. The big question now is Well, we're going to give it a chance to clear the tree and then ask the big question, will Dwarf track it in equi mode? Let's see if we can push our luck for a minute. Function moon track. Done already. Okay. No, the trick now is to see if it let us go to astro mode. Atlas. Doesn't like Atlas. Okay, that is Atlas. Uh-oh. It did not like Atlas. Let's stop tracking the moon. Go back to Astro. Go to Atlas. And ask it to find the moon. Done already. All right. We're tracking the moon in astro mode. Let's see how well it does. And let's see if it's gonna let me improve focus by just a bit. I look for the brightness of the white dots, the craters, or the peaks, I should say, as my focus criterion. Yeah, autofocus seems to be good enough for now. Okay. The only other thing worth attempting at this point is exposure. We have it on auto, and it will not let us change the white balance, not in astro mode. Okay. Hello, Zena. I'm gonna get rid of the zoom in. We are testing the new app in equatorial mode. Don't know if you saw the picture of Dwarf leaning against its own tripod. We're trying to see how well it tracks. And as soon as the tree gets out of the way, we will stack the moon. Haven't stacked a daytime moon in a little while, so we'll see how that comes out. But the big test tonight is tracking in equatorial mode. Equatorial mode, that's when the telescope is mounted facing the North Star, facing Polaris, as opposed to sitting on a flat table. When it's sitting in alt-az mode, as we call it, or altitude azimuth, it rotates along a vertical axis and along a horizontal axis, and both of these are at 90 degrees with the horizontal axis basically along the horizon. When it is in equatorial mode, the two axes around which it rotates become tricky, because the first one that used to be straight up is now pointing from the telescope directly to the North Star, to Polaris. And that's how the telescope now is at an angle. The big benefit of equatorial mode is that the pictures will not have the edges twisted. But our first test of the night, Dwarf app was unable to track the moon in astro-equatorial mode. So we're going to stop this, go back to photo mode. No, never mind. Stop it, stop it. End current session. Thank you. Whoa. Okay. Exposure. Yeah, go back to 0 and go back to auto shutter, please. Thank you. Wow. There we go to a pink screen again. Hey Sue, the problem has recurred. We got the pink screen without even trying to focus. I think this one I know what the problem is. Infrared pass, infrared cut. Okay, we're back to blue. Alright, now we need to move it back to the center. Let's make sure this one is at 2, not at 3, otherwise it's going to go flying. Okay, it is in the center. Let's go to Atlas. just for the fun of it, where are we here? Where is the moon? The moon should be just about due west. Where is my moon? There's the moon, okay. So we should be able to select the moon and go to it. Place dwarf on a flat surface. It is, but dwarf is twisted. Done already. Alright. Now, okay, thank you. I'd like to see if it'll let me stack the moon. This is nice. But we are at current 7, 8. It always gets very grainy when it stacks the second frame. Let's see what's going to happen over the next few frames. Zena, there is a website, I'll send you the link in just 1 second, that allows you to see exactly what I was looking at. It is Stellarium, and you don't need to download it. It is just a website. If you go to it, it's going to look identical to the atlas that I was looking at, and you can turn on the constellations and the symbols. I use it many times a day. It's a very, very quick, convenient hop on, hop off website. Unfortunately, I'm seeing some streaking. And as to why it has stacked 15 out of 30, don't know. The nice thing about Stellarium web is it allows you to look at any time in the future or in the past. And if you're tempted to go 2000 years back and see what conjunctions took place around Christmas time, you will find Jupiter, Venus, and Mars side by side. If not, you can go a lot less than 2000 years and see what was happening when you were born, what alignment of stars allowed the world the gift of you coming in. Yesterday's test of the Dwarf was to have it track the sun in the middle of the afternoon. Temperature in the shade was 95 degrees. Temperature on Dwarf itself was 168 degrees. I better translate that into centigrade. It's 75 Celsius. That's an easy number to remember. And Dwarf worked flawlessly. I'm a week after you, Lion or Leo. I was confident that if that temperature was too extreme, that we will have a bit flip somewhere and the scope will crash before any permanent damage would occur. And neither of the two happened. It just drained the battery outright, but that was all. So nothing exciting happening here. I'm going to stop the stack and see if the moon has left the building or left the stage. Now Dwarf 3 is going to come with a lot faster processor, and that I look forward to. End current session, yeah, it's not tracking. So we're going to stop the tracking part, get out of astro mode, go to photo mode, thank you, move the moon back to the center, and see if photo mode will track it. Okay, first result of the night. Those loud clicks are my fat fingers on the keyboard. In about an hour, we should be able to calibrate Dwarf. If the moon is still in sight, we will try to track it then with a calibrated Dwarf as opposed to an uncalibrated Dwarf. Let's see where the moon will be at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. It will still be within sight. Just a bit lower. Actually, not much lower. So we'll go back to the moon. Well, we're not leaving the moon for a while, but after we calibrate, we'll go back to the moon and try to image it again in astro mode and see if it'll track it then. In the meantime, Messier 13 and Messier 92 are both legit targets for tonight. We'll try to do one or the other. As far as galaxies are concerned, sorry, clusters. I was thinking ahead of myself, or speaking ahead, to see what galaxies will be good candidates. Unfortunately, with the moon to the south and Dwarf in equi mode, indeed facing south because it cannot be facing north, we're not looking for quality of capture here, but rather the mechanics. This is interesting. At 10 o'clock tonight, I do not see a single galaxy in my sky. Not one. We have clusters galore. Wow. We will still pay a visit to the Blaze star, TCRB, to see if it has gone nova yet. Galaxies do not move. Earth moves around the sun. Actually, galaxies do move. The universe is expanding So they are moving away from the center of the universe, wherever that is. But given the rotation of the Earth around the Sun, the part of the sky that we see at night is changing. Because when it is nighttime here, the folks at Dwarf Lab have daytime. They're exactly 12 hours ahead of us. So they are facing the sun. We have the sun to our back and we're facing into eternity. And as we move around the sun, our night will be facing a different part of the sky. Hence, the galaxies appear to move on us. It is what we can see from here. Yes, correct, what we can capture. Lots of nebulae, but well, the East Veil and the West Veil are both within reach. So is the Eagle Nebula, but that we may have to wait till 11 or so. Let's give it another hour. Okay. Andromeda will rise at 11. And by midnight it will be at 10 degrees, which is still very low. 1 a.m. Maybe. Saturn rises at 1 a.m. I'm not going to attempt to capture Saturn with Dwarf. By 2 a.m. Andromeda will be close to 30 degrees. So that is doable. Good evening, David. I tried taking Saturn with a 16-inch Schmidt telescope recently and it did not go well either. Saturn is in a funky state right now with the rings almost facing us. In photo mode and video mode, Dwarf is tracking the moon perfectly. It did not do as well in astro mode. We will come back to astro mode after we calibrate Dwarf. In the meantime, a quick 30-second capture for posterity. And let's see if focus is going to look any better now. Not as sharp. Okay. So the plan for the next hour or so, we're going to stay on the moon until it's dark enough for Dwarf to calibrate. Sunset tonight is at 8:47, 20:47. I usually try to go with an hour after that, so 9:47 or so will be a good first attempt at calibration. Calibration is tricky in equatorial mode because Dwarf will be facing the open sky at an angle. Once calibration succeeds, order of business is to go back to the moon and see if it tracks it in astro mode after calibration. And then we're going to hop over to the Blaze Star T CRB to see if it has gone nova yet. Once we are done with these two housekeeping targets, we might hop onto C2021 S3 Pan-STARRS to see if we can see the comet. It's the only one right now visible in the early night, early evening. And then we'll go do a globular cluster. I'd like to try M13 and or M92. Beyond that, we will attempt one or two open clusters. And then as far as nebula are concerned, we have East Vale, West Vale, Eagle and Swan all within reach. Trifid will not rise until a bit later. As the night progresses, we will be able to take a peek at Andromeda, but that's the problem with equatorial. Many of those rising targets will be behind Dwarf's back, and it's going to be reasonably tricky for it to image these targets. I don't know if it will go to Polaris. It's definitely worth a try after we calibrate to pull up the Atlas and see if we can send Dwarf to Polaris. Considering that the moon is fairly bright, stand by, it's 91%. With the 91% moon, I am not going for quality of imaging, but rather working through the mechanics of the beta app, the new software. So none of these captures will be multiple hours. There will be enough minutes to satisfy ourselves that the stars are still in the sky, that Dwarf is able to find them, that we're looking at round stars and not eggs. And if all goes as planned, we should be able to bid you all good night before it's tomorrow. Whether it's tomorrow here, or tomorrow in the Midwest, or tomorrow on the West Coast, it should not matter. We'll see which tomorrow it is. It's already tomorrow at Dwarf Lab. I've invited Sue to join us tonight, so we'll see if she does. weather forecast is calling for some clouds between 10 a.m. and 1 a.m. and then clearing after that. We'll see how well we can fight the clouds tonight. Right now, according to Astrospheric, we have 11% cloud cover. It sounds like it, Gina. Enjoy your dinner, have a good evening, and come back later. We'll be here. Just checking the clouds. Cloud cover will be 20% at 9, 44% at 10, 73% at 11, 56% at midnight, and then drops back down to 20%. Hello, email. Are we gonna see you for breakfast tomorrow? We're gonna give the sky another half hour to darken a bit more, and then we will attempt calibration. Once we have calibration, we'll go to Polaris, make sure we can find Polaris, take a quick look at TCRB, see if it has gone over yet. Go back to the moon and see if it will track it in astro mode after calibration. And then spend some time imaging the Great Hercules Cluster, Messier 13. the moon remains perfectly in the center of the frame. So in photo mode, video mode, it's tracking perfectly in equatorial mode. Gonna give it another 12 minutes or so and then attempt calibration. As soon as I see star outside the window, we will attempt calibration. The dreaded clouds are starting to move in. The sun right now is 6 degrees below the horizon. I like to give it till 10 degrees. 10 degrees below the horizon would be a good time to attempt calibration. It goes down by about 10 degrees per hour. So 4 more degrees is 20 some minutes, which is about right. The halo that you see around the moon is what we call clouds. Hello, Wilbur. No, you're not late to the party. The party started early. Tried to see if a dwarf in equatorial mode will track, and the first result was I'm not complaining, I am reporting. So right now in photo mode, video mode, Dwarf is tracking the moon perfectly, even though the telescope is mounted equatorially. Okay. I stand admonished for complaining. So we're waiting another 10-15 minutes and then attempt to calibrate. Once calibration succeeds, we will try to see if it will track the moon in astro mode. Oh, I use my cell phone, I take a picture and then set it as the cover for the live stream. Just wanted to show people how Dwarf is equatorially mounted. Some folks go to extremes to try to align it, and I use the I use the tripod that came with it, and it seems to do the job, as long as you make sure you put the long leg behind it so it doesn't fall over. That's the only time I use a tripod. Other than that, I just plop it down and the Dwarf does the job. Yesterday, for the first time, I saw a Dwarf post with Dwarf 3 and Dwarf 2 side by side, and it shows the size difference. Dwarf 3 is about an inch longer and half an inch taller than Dwarf 2. The picture is on the Dwarf Labs homepage or Facebook page, and I don't know if it is computer generated, AI generated, or actually picture taken with a camera. But both telescopes appear sitting in grass on the ground with no tripod. It is in Hong Kong, so they are 12 hours ahead of us. I don't know how or where they make their lenses. I know that they use Sony sensors for their cameras, but not sure about the rest of the hardware. if Sue joins us tonight, we'll be able to ask her about the lenses. Yeah, I don't know. Their solar filters are definitely glass. I don't know about the lens inside on the telescope. Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I have often used the Dwarf inside a window and did some good imaging through the window. Solar imaging, I definitely do that inside the window, so I don't have to open the window and get the bugs in. Nighttime imaging is touch and go, depends on the target. And these are double glazed, triple glazed windows for the northeast to keep the cold out. Sun is 7 degrees below the horizon. Yeah, just be patient with the bubble nebula, it will pay off. It's a beautiful target. I've gotten some gorgeous stacked images of the bubble nebula on Seestar after giving it a good solid hour of capture. Wilbur, I can check it out, but your latitude should be very comparable to ours here. Actually, I dropped off a box of 24 Keurig pods of Folgers black silk coffee, so that should last me at least a night. You're at 47 degrees. Okay, so you're a bit further further up. Yeah, we are at 43. Since we have another 10 minutes before we can attempt calibration, Hello, Jacob. Wilbur, the Abel or Abel 39, do you mean that with the Dwarf or with the 16-inch mead? Okay. I had a meeting with the physics department head at Oswego this morning. The physics department owns the observatory, and I gave him my shopping list of what we need. The first item on the list is a 70mm guide scope. Right now I'm using a 60mm f/4. We're looking at getting a 70mm of f/5.6. So that'll be a 400mm focal length. The rule of thumb is you want your guide scope to have a focal length of 1/10 of the imaging scope. Imaging scope is 4060 millimeters. It's an f10 16-inch, and last time we went live, I used a guide scope with a focal length of only 240. So we need to double that. I'm also trading in my ASI120mm for an Mini, and trading in the ASI183 for an ASI585 to get rid of the amp glow that 183 is infamous for. I'm gonna see, Jacob, how well we do by going from a 240mm focal length to a 400mm focal length. So I'm doubling the focal length for now. If that does not give me the tight tracking that I'd like, then we'll double it again. The biggest concern, and not much we can do about, is the pier. The way the scope was mounted on the pier is not perfectly polar aligned. And not much we can do about that. So I'll have to do the auto guiding in both RA and deck as opposed to just the one. Reasonably well focused. As you may have noticed, the beta app refocuses before every capture, which is good. No, I'm not going with the Pro. I'm just going with the 585 for now. Going with the Pro will be the next step. I keep looking out of the window waiting for stars to appear. The sky is still light blue. I took some pictures of the blue sky yesterday that I'm going to try to process and invert to see if I can see stars on them. I took them midday away from the sun in what appeared to be the bluest part of the sky and took them at various exposures. Alright, we're going to attempt to move to a part of the sky away from the moon. Looks like we have some stars. I'm going to attempt calibration. Stand by. Straight into a tree. Okay, fail it and move on. This is not looking good. We're going to try again. It got the first two okay. Now it's staring at a wall. Okay, thank you. Let's go back. Let's see if this is a good place. No trees. Really? Let's see if this will do. If not, I'm going to have to go downstairs and realign it. Okay, this one looks good. This one looks okay. It's going down into the railings. Alright, I'll be going downstairs. Be back. Okay, let's try again. Okay, this is a good one. This one has clouds in it. This should be okay. This is cloudy. This is very cloudy. Okay, we'll try one more time. Okay, let's try this part of the sky. That's one thing that Seestar has up on Dwarf. It doesn't calibrate. Just goes to where it thinks the target is. Very funny. It goes to where it thinks the target is and plate solves. Come on, get off the tree. Thank you. The clouds are not helping. So good evening. We are dealing with clouds, unfortunately. There are scattered clouds. I'm pushing my luck in trying to calibrate in the clouds. It stopped. I don't know if that means calibration was successful or what. Well, let's see if it lets us go somewhere. Looks like it has calibrated. I'm only doing Polaris for the fun of it, and then we're gonna hop over to M13 almost immediately, since the clouds are not gonna give us the luxury of playing too much around. So what you missed earlier is Dwarf tracked perfectly the moon in equatorial mode. Very nice. Well, there is Polaris. Good. Let's do M13. Do we have to click it again, or are we good? Yes, we want to stop. And we want to go to M13. That's something I like a lot about the beta app, is it refocuses with every target. So, ladies and gentlemen, we successfully calibrated in the clouds. Settings. Nope. No. We need to go to 10-second. And I need to cut. Go. Huh? Okay. I'm gonna stop it. End current session. Okay, we're trying to find the target. Okay. This is operator error, sorry. Function. Atlas. Find. M13. Go. Okay. We should not be too far from it. Alright, we're not clicking anything until we adjust the exposure. And infrared cut. Now we're ready to image. Good, it says M13, 10-second exposure, gain 80. This is good, very good improvement over the previous app. It tells us what target and what exposures. That was Belladonna agreeing with our findings. Hello, John. We are testing the beta app in equatorial mode. And so far, other than the touch and go for calibration in clouds, which it succeeded eventually, everything has gone flawlessly. And if you have not seen this feature yet, now is a good time to see it. And there's a new feature also, this one. I indicated earlier that our objective tonight is not to take perfect images since the moon is at 91%, but rather to test the mechanics of the new app. Palouse, this is a secret. It's called two fingers. You put your thumb on one part of the screen, you put your index finger next to it, and then you move them apart. And that's how you zoom. When I took the darks, it was just a little bit cooler than now. I may have to retake the darks, but that's not going to be tonight. I'm going to stack about 100 frames and then move on to the next target. I'd like to go back to the moon in astro mode and see how well Dwarf will track it. It tracked it very well in photo mode. It did not track too well in astro mode. Radar, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the dual band filter that comes standard to the Dwarf 3. That's going to allow us to eliminate a lot of the unnecessary noise around the image. Plus the dual band filter is going to be ideal for nebula. I'm going to hop over to one of the nebula tonight. Again, just to test the mechanics. not so much the quality of the image, but the dual band filter is going to be a big improvement. So there was a question earlier about the lenses. Are the lenses that Dwarf 3 uses, are they made in Hong Kong, or are they, do you guys import them, or do you make them locally? New York Raider fan, I'm looking forward also to using the wide angle lens in astro mode. That will allow us to capture meteor showers and the Milky Way. And if my Dwarf 3 arrives in time, we have a meteor shower scheduled now for August 12 and 13. The Perseids meteor shower will be my first test of Dwarf 3 on a meteor shower. Luis, that's the plan. The time lapse may have to go from the YouTube capture. We'll let Dwarf do what Dwarf does best, namely observe the sky, and we'll try to adjust the exposure so we can see the meteors. I believe so, John. I think so. I know it does panoramic with the tele lens. I think it does panoramic with the astro lens, with the wide angle lens as well. But considering that the field of view is already about 50 degrees, it will not take too many images to get the full 360 degrees in panoramic mode. Thanks, Sue. Good evening, Steve. All right. I'm gonna stop this one and hop over to TCRB to see if it has exploded yet. John, actually, in the checking that I did, I believe the dual band filter is better than third party. It is narrower band on both O3 and H-alpha. And I'm looking forward to the faster processor on the D3. End current session. Now let's see what options we have to finding TCRB. It is very close to Pallas actually. Function Atlas. First of all, we see if it is in the Atlas. Nope. Theta CRB is not the same as TCRB. They are very far from each other. Let me see if I see. Is it 4587? 4587. Nope. So we're going to enter the coordinates. Plus. It is TCRB is at 15 hours, 59 minutes, 31 seconds, 15, 59, 31, Next, 25, 55, 17. This should get us to TCRB. Let's see. Yep, it is near Palace. So, Sue, you said I have to find the middle of the screen and click on it and go there, correct? This is about the middle of the screen. We're going to go for it. Yup, go. The good news is TCRB has not exploded yet. I'm going to stack about 10 and then go over to the moon to do the tracking test in astro mode. Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that we have absolutely no field rotation. The Dwarf was polar aligned by putting it on its own tripod. Nothing fancy. Spread the legs out so it doesn't fall over. Make sure there is a leg pointing to Polaris. And then I bent the screw that goes into Dwarf all the way until it hit the edge, and that is exactly 43 degrees, works for me. Alright, TCRB has not exploded. End of this test. Stop it. Enjoy your rocket launch, Steve. Is that out of Vandenberg? End current session, stop tracking, and let's go to the moon. There's the moon. Let's go for it. Okay, so it's not gonna seek the moon, it's asking me to move the moon to the center of the telephoto view. Alright, end of test. Next target is going to be unfortunately, we don't have any galaxies around. So we're going to try to go for the nebula that are out there. Okay, East Vale, West Vale are both available. Let's see what alright, we're going to ignore that and go back to the atlas. North. Take me east. There is C20. This is one target I look forward to imaging with the filter on. And we want the infrared here, so time to go. Good evening, Bill. Let me give you a summary of what has transpired so far. We have Dwarf in equatorial mode on its own tripod. Earlier this evening, it tracked the moon impeccably in photo mode and video mode. It did not track as well in astro mode. Equatorial mode Dwarf did not track, the new app did not track the moon in astro mode. Then we tried to do calibration through clouds. And on the third attempt, we succeeded in calibrating the Dwarf even though it was cloudy. So that is a big plus, big positive. Imaged M13, it did very well, it found it. And looked at TCRB, it has not exploded yet, we're keeping an eye on it. Tried to find the moon, and for whatever reason, Dwarf did not want to seek the moon or go to, but rather asked me to center it within the field of view and let it know when I'm done. Now we're looking at North America Nebula with IR pass, and I'm looking forward to doing this one and many other nebulas with Dwarf 3 given the dual band filter that it has. Since Sue is on the line, Bill, I will share with you what we did yesterday with the Dwarf. We imaged the sun and I measured the temperature. The ambient temperature was 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 Celsius, but the temperature of the Dwarf was 168 Fahrenheit or 75 Celsius. And it kept operating properly. It was hot to the touch. I could have burned my fingers touching the plastic, but it kept working. I have a Black & Decker infrared temperature thermometer. I measured the black top in the driveway, and that was only 135. Dwarf was 168. The battery, the black battery, the external battery that I was using, hit 180. I usually keep the Dwarf indoors in an air-conditioned room when I image the sun, because it has no problem looking through the window. But yesterday was a test and it succeeded. I figured that the first thing that will go wrong is a bit flip and it will crash before any permanent damage. None of that happened. It sat out there for a solid 2 hours without a hitch. Nothing went wrong. It tracked the sun, it stacked. The only minor mishap occurred very, very early on and had nothing to do with the heat. When I clicked on autofocus, the entire screen turned purple. I sent Sue a short video of that incident. The other thing that Dwarf did, when I rebooted it, I had a runaway telescope on my hands after the reboot. It would just not stop moving. And this was well before temperature or heat became a consideration. After clicking on stop several times and eventually stopped, and then we were good the rest of the afternoon. So to all the folks who joined us tonight, if you have not been on one of those streams before, welcome. I pretty much stream live everything that my telescopes image, and if the sky is clear, day or night, you can find me here live. If you have targets of interest, let me know. We can try to get them. And just as a reminder, I have a mountain behind me to the west. So my sky is open from north through east to the south. Bill, have you ordered your Dwarf 3 yet? There was a picture on Dwarf Lab's Facebook page showing Dwarf 2 and Dwarf 3 sitting side by side. That if this is a true picture as opposed to an AI generated or computer generated fiction, then you can tell that Dwarf 3 is about an inch wider and about half an inch taller than Dwarf 2. Not much bigger. Yes, Luis, it's just a bit larger in size and weighs about half a pound more. Radar fan, don't know how long before we see any nebulosity, considering that there is no filter, no O3 or H-alpha filter. But I'll gladly sit on it for the better part of another 20 some minutes till 11 and see what we get. Hi Larry, welcome back Zena. Trying to see if I can get you some nebulosity with by stretching it. Yeah. Jacob, are you talking to me? The not gonna get much from the North American Nebula? I know that. As I mentioned earlier, the goal tonight is not so much quality of imaging, but rather the mechanics of the app. We will revisit the North American Nebula when the Dwarf 3 comes and we have the filters in it. Now, there is not a single galaxy that we can image right now. M31 is coming up, but it'll be another probably a couple hours before it's high enough in the sky. And besides doing clusters, we did M13 earlier. Our best bet is going to be way above. How far above? Let me see. No, it's on the wrong side of the sky. It's west, cannot get it. Yeah, M51 and M101 are both out of reach right now. Xena Steve Miller indicated that he's on his way to watch a launch. Okay, the two veils are within reach, and I want to see what NGC 6823 can give us. The summer beehive cluster is a possibility. That will be IC 4665. Atlas. Summer beehive cluster, there it is. Let's see if we can get to it. Luis, if you hang in with us, we should be able to get to Andromeda soon. Well, another hour and a half. Looks like we found clouds. Ah! Yeah, this is not good. Okay. Let's see if we can go all the way the other direction. slightly better. We have successfully stacked a cloud. Wilbur, I'm not complaining, I'm making an observation. Now, believe it or not, Dwarf will efficiently burn out the cloud and stack through it. Or not. M23, let's see if we can get it. Doable. Let's try. I just noticed that when I open the atlas, it fills up more of the screen than the default user interface for Dwarf. This is where a field of view rectangle will be very helpful. You're not doing too well, Bill. gonna go back to see if we can do this, the beehive cluster now, if that's cleared a bit. Yep. Yeah, this particular tree is on my list. Nope. Gonna go see what we have north. Stephen A, we are dealing with clouds. All right, Atlas. The equatorial mount worked very well on the moon and earlier on M13. Bill, right now I'm unable to find any part of the sky that has a crack in the clouds. We could attempt to go for C2021S3. Let me see if anybody knows what it is. Okay, we have RA deck for it and it's fairly visible. Atlas. Search plus. We're looking at 2026-39. $60.59.19. So it should be somewhere in the center of the image, so right around here. Okay. Upon visual inspection of the sky, I could not see a single star. Even the moon has disappeared behind clouds. So, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we're going to be having an early going to bed tonight, at least some of us. So with that in mind, I shall check the forecast for tomorrow. Nope, not any better. So I wish you all a good night, and we'll keep you posted through Facebook when we have another clear night. We did accomplish a couple of successes though. Dwarf was able to calibrate in equatorial mode. It was able to track a couple of targets. It was able to track the moon. So Luis, it's Pompey Observatory.